games and second of 3 in 4 days. The 3 in the 4 days will be tomorrow in Colorado. It doesn't get any easier. This starts a run by of 6 straight opponents that are very, very likely headed to the postseason. So it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, this is a tough swing in the schedule. Just how things shook out. This was a spot that if the Flyers had the season that they thought they would have, might have been a bit of a measuring stick trip here. But as it turns out, it's going to be one of these.
Be a dipstick.
Trying to survive. I don't know. I didn't think to ask you if you knew, but I don't know if the Flyers are going 11-7 again.
They are.
Did call up our new guy, but Oscar Lindblom's back out. So yeah, another 11-7 night. So they're just going to again try to fight their way through it, and again an audition for another new player. That's a pretty good story. So yeah, it is definitely going to be a tough back-to-back here. It's not a hop, skip, and a jump, St. Louis to Colorado, and you got the altitude and all that. They do get a little extra hour of rest, but yeah, this is a challenge ahead of this team here tonight.
Yeah, and it's Hayden Hodgson who's going to get his NHL debut tonight. I know he led the players in the end of practice stretches and in anticipation of this game here tonight. And another player will make his debut. We've seen quite a few guys make their NHL debut over the last 2 seasons. And, from looking last year at guys like, there was Zamula last year, York last year. We saw some other guys get into the lineup for the first time, Sandin this year. So we've seen quite a few guys make their NHL debut. And I guess that's part and parcel with a team that's not going to the postseason and riddled with injuries. Yeah,
and it's actually
Sushko, another one.
More than just that, it's guys making their NHL debut that didn't seem to have the NHL in their future with players like Max Willman first and now Hayden Hodgson. This is a kid that was able to attend a couple of development camps over the course of his career. He was in Detroit and in Columbus in development camps along the way, but didn't stick with either team. And I think he probably also got caught up a little bit in all the mess with COVID. I mean, COVID pushed everybody basically down a level. You had it's kind of like a lockout a little bit. You had guys that weren't playing in the NHL because of restrictions. They get pushed down to the AHL. AHL guys get pushed down to the ECHL and so forth and so on. For a while, none of the leagues were playing. So that's kind of probably at least a little bit as to why he didn't get more American League time after the 1 year that he did, which was in 1920. He spent a lot of time with Cleveland, which is Columbus's AHL affiliate. He went to that development camp and didn't earn an NHL deal, but he stuck on with the Monsters in Cleveland. And now he's getting kind of a second chance here. And really, he came into camp like really late. He played with Reading 2-3 years ago, and I don't know if Reading had brought him in late or what exactly happened, but he had to miss, I think, the first day of camp because he didn't have his physical done or something like that. And then he was on a tryout and he made the team, and now he's their third leading scorer. So it's a great story, and be good to see how he looks out there tonight.
Yeah, another debut that we'll keep an eye on for the Flyers tonight, and it's the Flyers against their former head coach here in Craig Berube. Is there any guys still on the team that were players under Craig Berube? I mean, at this point,
Couturier and Van Riemsdyk, I think, would be it.
Was JVR was he even here when? I don't think.
Oh yeah, here. Well, I guess as a head coach, no, he was.
Yeah,
not. He was here when he was an assistant. So as a head coach, it would only be Sean Couturier, I think, unless there's something I'm thinking of.
And Couturier is actually on the road with the team.
Yes.
Saw him at the pregame skate today, chatting it up with Braden Shen.
Yep, there's nobody in the game per se that played under the chief, but Van Riemsdyk would have been there as an assistant back in the day. He was in the organization for what didn't really seem like a list to a lot of people, but he was in the organization as a coach for more than 10 years. He came back to the Phantoms as a player assistant, and he was Phantom's assistant for quite some time before going up to the Flyers as an assistant. So he he definitely saw a lot of the guys along the way in one aspect or another. But yeah, most of them moved on.
Yeah, but Craig Berube became that assistant at the NHL level under Peter Laviolette, and eventually took over for him when Peter was let go.
And it was even before that when Stevens took over for Hitchcock. When that first happened, Berube went up, and then after that season was over, that 06-07 season that was certainly forgettable for many reasons, he came back and was the head coach of the Phantoms in 07-08.
Yeah.
And then after that season went up and became an assistant again. So a little bit of an unconventional route there, but yeah, it was kind of a strange time there when Hitch was let go and Bob Clark resigned just a month into that season. They kind of had to steady the ship a little bit. So when John Stevens went up, he took Chief with him.
Boy, he's up and down like a toilet seat. Maybe even more so than as a player. I mean, at least as a player, even though he wasn't what you would deem as a skilled player, but he always was on the NHL roster.
Yeah,
because he filled a certain role that a lot of veterans on those teams, and Jonesy's talked about it, loved having him in the lineup because there was a lot of protection.
Yeah, and when he played that year, he played for the Phantoms. It wasn't just like playing out the string. He was a player assistant. It was an intentional part of his next step, if you will, out of playing and into coaching. So he did play that season, but was there more to start what turned into a pretty successful coaching career.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up playing over 1,000 NHL games. Like we just celebrated Giroux getting to 1,000 games last Thursday, and Craig Berube in that role played over 1,000 games. I mean, he only had 61 goals, 159 points, but 1,054 NHL games. That's
like 1,700 penalty minutes, right?
Something like no, way more than that.
I don't know.
3,100 penalty minutes.
1,700 is a flyer, I think, is what I'm
thinking.
Okay. So
yeah.
Flyer 1,700. Yeah. So, yeah, he definitely had a solid career, just not one. You weren't looking for a ton of points from the Chief. You were just looking for, and well, you've heard that old crazy story about when Jeremy Roenick signed with the Flyers and he walked in the locker room and the Chief just punched him right in the face.
Yeah. It was a debt.
Something going back, many years, and then once that happened, they were all good. So.
Yeah, there's not many seasons on his roster where he was under triple digits in penalty minutes, and if it was, he missed a lot of games.
Yeah,
he had 305 one year. I mean, his first year in Washington in 93, 94. I mean,
that's the type of thing that is pretty much gone from the NHL these days. I think. Many guys going too far over 100 these days. It just it doesn't resonate as much as it used to.
Yeah, an old Hershey Bear as well. So it's the Flyers and the Blues tonight in St. Louis. Again, this road trip continues. And the Flyers, Bryce, still looking for their first win of 2022. It's going to be tough to get it in these next couple of games, but you got to get it sometime. Might as well try and get it tonight against the former coach.
Absolutely. It's a little bit of a little bit of motivation, I think, for some of the guys that have been around here for a while, but they do definitely know that this is a thing right now with this losing streak on the road. It's been you had that 8-game homestand there in the middle and things like that that have kind of exacerbated it a little bit, made it longer than it really is. But what are we looking at now? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 12. Is it 12 now in a row that without a win?
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that is in the back of their mind, and want to get this off their back so people aren't talking about it too long through this stretch.
Yeah, and we're kind of getting to the point of winding this season down. We're getting close to the point where we say, okay, it's the final stretch run. Maybe after this road trip and you're into April, you can say that. I don't know if you can say that here while we're still in the calendar month of March, but like we said, this road trip continues tonight in St. Louis, tomorrow in Colorado. Quick turnaround. I wonder if the altitude, you got to adjust to the altitude when you go in there on a back-to-back. That can't be ideal.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it is. Usually, that trip is something that if you're going to take it on a standalone situation, a lot of times you'll go in there, 2 or 3 days
early, right?
Just try to get it running a little bit. So it's definitely not ideal. The situation that they're in. They're going in there not only having to deal with that on one night's notice, but they're going to go against a a rested Colorado team. They are off tonight, and obviously clicking on all cylinders. They're having a great year, and they've been able to. It wasn't too long ago that they were scraping the bottom of the NHL standings, and now Joe Sakic's got them turned right back around, and one of the teams that is probably top 2 picks to come out of the West right now for
Calgary, right?
Stanley Cup Finals. So yeah, that's why that's part of what makes this back-to-back year so challenging. Is just the circumstances that surround it. It's a little bit like that Carolina Dallas back-to-back earlier in the season, where it was just a long travel night in between the two back-to-backs, and it's just something they're going to have to try to slog their way through.
And Colorado, that'll be tomorrow night. When you look at points percentage in the NHL, they're right at the top now, 742. They've got 95 points, and there's still a month to go, a quarter of the season left. Just an unbelievable breakneck speed that they've been playing at. The St. Louis Blues with the 11th highest points percentage at 637. So it's Flyers Blues tonight. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back with more here on Flyers Game Day. That's Brian Smith. I'm Jason Martinez. Flyers Blues tonight. Stay tuned. We're getting closer to the matchup right here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. It's Flyers Blues tonight, 11-7 going again tonight. I talked to Nick Schultz for today's Flyers Daily, Bry, as a former NHL defenseman and going 11-7. And he was mentioning, there's, constant juggling of who your partner is, both as a defender and constant juggling with your offensive line as well. But we saw a little run of Joel Farabee in the middle, and he looked pretty good in the middle.
Yeah, we were talking about getting ready to audition some people tonight, obviously Hayden Hodgson coming into the lineup is somebody the Flyers want to look at and see how he fares at the NHL level for a potential contract for next year. But you're also auditioning guys who are already on the team in different roles, and that's one of them. Joel Farabee is going to take a shot at center. I don't remember if it was I don't know if Schultz said something about this or if I read it somewhere else that Chuck Fletcher and Dean Lombardi were thinking about looking at him at center anyway. So they get an opportunity to do that here. And, again, other guys getting expanded roles. Last time out in the Detroit game, Morgan Frost took 21 faceoffs, and that's 7 more than he's ever taken in a game. So he is now going to get as you would expect with the departure of Claude Giroux and everybody else who's hurt, he's going to get kicked up the food chain a little bit here, and the Flyers are going to see how he handles it. So a lot of auditions going on not just with new guys but old guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of the things that Mike Yo mentioned when he was talking about that conversations with Chuck Fletcher and Dean Lombardi is also, you lost a lot of penalty killers. You lost Brassard, you lost Giroux, you lost guys that were key PK guys. Now we did see a little bit of Frost on the PK over the last couple of games, but he's going to get more PK time, and so is TK. TK on the PK.
That's
I think that'll make some people laugh initially.
That screams a T-shirt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Something there. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, it's again, you're playing with not much to lose right now, and you're looking for a situation like Sean Couturier about 5 years ago when the Flyers had been using him as a checking center. And he went to management after a season and said, "I want a bigger role," and they gave him one, and look what he became. It's kind of one of those things about advocating for yourself. If they hadn't made that move, who knows where his career might have gone. So you're going to get some guys playing some different usages like that, and who knows, maybe it's a lost art of Travis Konechny's game. Another thing that comes to mind was a decade ago or so during James Van Riemsdyk's first tour of duty with the Flyers. Flyers held a all-star game style skills competition at Wells Fargo Center. They brought in
he was the fastest skater.
Well, he had 105-mile-an-hour slap shot.
Yeah.
And nobody knew that.
And because you never see him take it.
After that, they started putting him at the point on the power play for a while. So every now and then you discover these new little tidbits of a player's game that you thought you knew, but you realize he can do some of these other things, and it can change things for the better.
Didn't he win the fastest skater competition too?
He may very well have. The one that stuck out to me was the hardest shot.
Yeah,
he may
remember that.
One fastest skater too. I don't recall.
That's amazing. He's got a bomb for a slap shot, but we never see that. He's known as a net front guy, good hands in tight. Mm-hmm. Couturier, when he was in junior, in all fairness, was banking on himself, and for good reason. He had back-to-back 96-point seasons. He did it in 68 games in the 09-10 season in Drummondville in the Quebec Major Junior League, and then in 58 games, he had 96 points in his last year in junior before getting drafted. So he's a guy that knew he could score at that level and felt like he could do it at the NHL level, and he wasn't wrong. He's got 2 76-point seasons in the NHL.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how sometimes that goal total that you see doesn't translate to the NHL. Like the guy the Flyers had a number of years ago, Danik Martel, in the Quebec League, had something stupid like 120 points. And they only play 60 games, so it's even bigger accomplishment than in the NHL. But it didn't stick at the NHL level, whereas some guys do. So it is kind of odd sometimes how you have to look at it really closely and figure that out.
Yeah, Danik Martel guy, I remember that. That's a blast from the past right there. I'm trying to see. He did have some like ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous numbers in the Q. Now the Q is one of those leagues too, where you can put up huge numbers and it doesn't necessarily mean that. He had a 102-point season, 48 goals and 54 assists in the Q. So let's take another timeout. We're getting closer and closer to Flyers Blues. Got Tim Saunders and Steve Coates. They're in St. Louis. They'll bring you all the action, but we'll take you right up to it here on Flyers Game Day. It's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. It is Flyers game day. Flyers Blues tonight in St. Louis. Second game of a 5-game road trip for the Flyers, looking to get their first road win of 2022. And Brian, all the names on the St. Louis Blues, some of varying degrees of popularity in North America. But if I were to tell you that their leading scorer is Jordan Kyrou, would you believe me? Because
No,
he
that
is.
would not jump out at me as their leading scorer with all the powers that team has. But again, it translates to what seems to be the key to success right now in the NHL, and that is balanced scoring from all corners of your lineup. These teams that have one or two guys that are leaps and bounds ahead of every other, they're just not finding the success that some of these teams are that have 20 guys with multiple digit goals or something like that on their roster. So it's not too surprising that their success is coming from lots of different spots, but that's not the guy that I would have thought of as a leading scorer. No.
They have 2 guys that with 22 goals, 1 guy with 20 goals, 3 guys with 19 goals, and 1 guy with 18 goals. Sheesh. It's pretty wild, And Kyrou's a guy, 22 of those. He has 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points in 58 games, leads the team in 16:45 minutes of ice time.
That is, I mean, he's certainly come along. He was a guy that was not really much of a leader in terms of offense on this team, but he's certainly come into his age and developed into that. Which is what you need to do to continue to be successful year after year after winning a Stanley Cup. You got to have guys that just rotate back in there and kind of take their share of the pie.
So and he was a guy taken 35th overall, second round pick, only 23 years of age. 2 guys on their team too that I look at, I go, wow, is this sustainable? I look at Braden Shen, who's got a 21.7 shooting percentage. That's insanely high. And another guy, and Ivan Barbashev, who's got a 21.3% shooting percentage. You rarely see it that high.
You ask if it's sustainable, and you would say no, but it's 60 games into the season.
Yeah.
I think you've already sustained it.
Yeah. Nuts.
Whether or not you can keep it going all the way through a playoff run, I don't know. Yeah. But that is a crazy high number. Usually the best numbers out there are in the low teens, right? Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Kyrou, for example, is at 15.3%.
Yeah.
Wow. It's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, they have I'm going down here 1 to 9 guys with a shooting percentage of above 10%, and all of them have at least 83 shots.
Yeah.
So that is finishing your chances. This team doesn't finish its chances because that's a crazy number.
Yeah, it's wild. The goaltending matchup tonight is Martin Jones. He gets to start for the Flyers, so presumably Carter Hart will go tomorrow night in that vaunted effort against the Colorado Avalanche. Thanks a lot, right?
I pulled up some silly numbers on Colorado, by the way, and I'd love to share them with you because my computer has just completely frozen and I can't switch windows. But they have since the shootout era started, so 2005. Right now they have, I believe it was the 4th highest points percentage of a team in a full season. If they were to continue at this pace and finish there, it would be the 4th highest 82 game points percentage since the shootout era started. There's a couple in there that are higher for 48 game seasons. Chicago's actually got the highest. They had an 803 in that 12-13 48 game season.
Yeah.
But that tells you what Colorado's doing right now. Over the last 2 seasons right now, they've won 85 games and they've lost about 20. It is just insane what they've been able to pull off right now.
So it's going to be Martin Jones versus Jordan Binnington. If I'm ever hoping for a goalie fight, it's against when Binnington's in there. I just think he's got a little bit of punk to him.
Well, wouldn't somebody have to Ray Emery him? Just go down there and beat the crap out of him, whether he likes it or not. Because I feel like he'd run away.
He's always like kind of jabbing guys, and it's like a faux tough guy act.
Yeah.
And one of these days, I think he needs to get served. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Martin Jones isn't the guy because he's not going to go down the other end. It's not the way. He's not a fiery guy like that. But although Martin Jones is a big man,
Jordan Biddington in 29 games played this year. He's got a record of 13, 12, and 4. If playoffs were to start today, I don't think he's their starter. He's got a 903 save percentage. Billy Husso, who's been really good on an expiring contract, has got a 925. And the fact that he's still on the team probably tells you that he would be the starter, because otherwise they would have traded him at the deadline to get something for him.
Yeah. He's been he's been causing a bit of a goaltending controversy in St. Louis, I think, all season long. I think this was being bandied about when the Flyers played them in Philadelphia back in February. He was it was starting to be like, okay, he's taking the job. And I think they're definitely planning on riding both goalies, but I think they might lean toward him when the time comes.
Yeah, Chief will have to make that call. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's going to be Martin Jones against Jordan Binnington tonight in St. Louis, game 2 of a 5-game road trip. And the Flyers, once again, will be looking for their first win. It's hard to believe. Their first win in the calendar year 2022 on the road.
Yeah.
Tough task tonight. Not going to get easier tomorrow, but the task at hand is the Blues. But stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, they're in St. Louis. They were checking out the Arch today and doing the whole thing, the gateway to the West, I'm sure. Seeing the sights as they often do. Stay tuned. The countdown to face-off and first period actions right after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right.
Yeah, I had having bad timing here. I can't click off a window or nothing.